You are listening to Housekeepers Chat by the United States Department of Agriculture from 1926. Disclaimer: this is read from a historic archive document. Do not assume content reflects current scientific knowledge, policies, or practices. This broadcast was aired 13th of October 1926.
John and Mary were listening in to a radio program.
Seems to me our radio sounds funnier than usual tonight.
Said John.
Oh, now I know why.
Exclaimed Mary.
I put your dress shirt in the loudspeaker to remind you of the laundry.
Speaking of the laundry, we've washed the clothes and rinsed them. Now it's time to starch. By the way, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has published a bulletin on home laundering which contains good general directions for making starch. I'll send you the bulletin if you want it. Or you can click the link below in the More Information section. Starch the clothes wrong side out. Leave them wrong side out till they're sprinkled. For white clothes, use the starch as hot as you can stand it. Hot starch goes through the fabric better and more evenly and doesn't leave shiny spots when ironed. Keep most of the starch hot. Use only part of it at a time. Replace it when it gets cold, and think the ideal method of starching is to have 2 pans of starch, besides the reserve supply. Dilute one with enough water to make a good paste for the thinner materials, and keep the other thick enough for the heavier clothes. Begin by starching the garments you want stiffest. Clothes wrung very dry before starching will be stiffer than wetter ones. White starch shows plainly when used on dark-colored clothes. It may be tinted with tea or coffee for browns, and with bluing for blues, or specially tinted products may be purchased. Dry all colored garments in the shade. Be sure they are wrong side out. Take the colored clothes off the line as soon as they are dry. Here are 3 laundry hints I've learned from the Bureau of Home Economics. First, a new rope clothesline will be softer and will last longer if boiled for a few minutes in soapy water. Second, a clothespin basket with wire hooks is a time saver on wash day. Push it along the clothesline as you hang the clothes. Third, a spray head attached to a cork fitted into a bottle makes a good clothes sprinkler. A round shisk broom, new and clean, is also a good clothes sprinkler. Both these methods give a finer spray, sprinkle more evenly, and do the work in less time than the hand method. Enough is enough, as the man said when he finished his 17th hamburger. We don't talk about washing anymore this week. I'd like to give you the menu next, because it's extra good. I tried it on the family last night. But here's Mrs. R. of Paola, Kansas, who wants to know how to cover her jelly. Mrs. R. is doing her first canning this fall. I shouldn't be surprised if she has tried to make jelly of all the surplus apples in the county. I know Mrs. R. She studied bookkeeping when she should have been learning to cook. I always cover my jelly with paraffin. Here's how. Put the paraffin into a cup, small saucepan, or small tin coffee pot. Melt over low heat. After the jelly has cooled and set, run the point of a knife lightly around the edge. Then pour hot paraffin over each glassful of jelly. See that it completely covers the top. Tilt the glass so the paraffin will run up on the sides of the glass lightly. This makes a perfect seal around the edge. After the paraffin cools, place tin tops on the glasses or paste paper over them. Label the glasses neatly. Store them in a dry, cool, dark place. What wallpapers are best for general use? Asks a Wyoming housekeeper. I like a wallpaper that gives a plain effect, or one with an inconspicuous all-over design that the family won't tire of. Papers with a rough finish do not show soil quickly. Gray or cream with a lighter tone for the ceiling makes a good background for pictures and for gay curtains. 2 more questions, then I'll tell you how to make apple dumplings. The kind of apple dumplings Fred says must sign up for a return engagement at our house this week. What is the best way to keep lard from turning rancid? Keep your lard in completely filled, tightly closed containers, preferably of glass or earthenware. Store the lard in a cool, dark place. Mrs. P. of St. Louis wants a reliable test for fruit jar rings. As you probably know, fruit jar rings must be bought new each year. I test them by doubling the rings together and pressing the fold with my finger. If made of good rubber, the rings won't crack. Another test is made by stretching the rings to twice their length. They should return without changing shape. Well, I did want to get to the menu next, and here's a request for a green tomato pie recipe. May I leave it till Thursday? No, I won't forget. I'll take it up the first thing tomorrow. Thank you. Pencils ready now for the menu. Spinach with hard-boiled eggs, fried squash, baked potatoes, and apple dumplings with sauce. The spinach must be washed very carefully. You might use 2 pans in cleaning it, transferring the spinach from one pan to the other, and changing the water. Or you might put the spinach in a colander and hold it under the running water in the sink. Remove the stems. If the leaves are large, chop them into small pieces. Drain the spinach. Cook it in a double boiler without water. Cover it closely at the beginning so it will steam. Season with salt, pepper, and butter. Remove the cover, and don't cook the spinach too long, or the bright color will be lost. Covered vegetables lose their green color more quickly than those cooked uncovered. I believe you will like your spinach piled lightly in the serving dish, not packed down hard. Serve it hot. Garnish with hard-boiled eggs, cut in neat slices of uniform size. An egg slicer, which costs very little, is a handy piece of kitchen equipment and saves time. For frying, select small squash. Season the slices with salt and pepper. Sprinkle lightly with flour. Cook them slowly as you did the fried tomatoes so the crust will have time to form. Serve hot. Baked potatoes are next. Pick out the smooth-skinned potatoes of uniform size. Wash and wipe dry. Put them on the medium rack of a fairly hot oven. The potatoes will require from 45 minutes to 1 hour for baking. Test them occasionally, loosening the skin with the tips of the fingers so the potatoes will cook through. When they are done, make a cross-shaped slit in each potato with a knife. Using a towel over your hand, force a little of the potato up through the slit so the steam will escape. Serve the potatoes immediately. Sprinkle lightly with paprika. Place a dot of butter in the center of each potato. I find that a long-handled weenie fork, or canning tongs, come in handy when potatoes are removed from the oven. The pastry for the apple dumpling is made as follows: 1½ cups flour, ½ teaspoon salt, 2 1/3 tablespoons water, 5 1/3 tablespoons fat. A biscuit cutter is excellent for combining the ingredients, which should be handled as little as possible. Roll the dough lightly. If I should add a special precaution here, it would be not to use too much water. This pastry recipe makes enough for 1 2-crust pie. If you use apples cut in quarters, sprinkle the pieces lightly with sugar, cinnamon, a little salt, and butter. If you use whole apples, select those of medium size, remove cores, and fill the holes with the seasoning. Place the fruit in the center of the rounds of dough. Bring the edges of the dough up over the fruit, pinching them together firmly so the juice won't escape. Bake the dumplings in greased muffin pans or in pie tins in a fairly hot oven. The sauce is made as follows: 1½ cups boiling water, 1½ tablespoons cornstarch, 3 tablespoons butter, ½ cup sugar, 1 teaspoon vanilla, little grated nutmeg, few grains salt. Mix the starch and the sugar with the boiling water. Add the butter just before serving. Be sure to let the sauce boil long enough to do away with the starchy taste. Hard sauce, which I gave you a recipe for not long ago, is also good on apple dumplings. Some people prefer cream rather than a sauce on apple dumplings. To repeat the menu: spinach with hard-boiled eggs, fried squash, baked potatoes, and apple dumplings with sauce. First thing on the program tomorrow? Green tomato pie. And if you have any questions, send them in. If I can't answer them, I may be able to find someone who can.
This broadcast was researched and produced by BreakAway Empire LLC.